Hey everyone, I'm over here, so I used the wrong hand to wave. Hey, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Allen Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Whether this is your first episode or whether you've been with us from the beginning, we have over 245 episodes on our way to 300 by end of calendar year 2025, which includes studio episodes, as well as um, episodes like this where current events and topics come up, and with the constraints of uh, recording in the studio and episodes coming out in the future, sometimes we're not able to cover those in the studio. So that's a little bit of why you're seeing and hearing a lot of these shows uh, in this manner. But they're all the same. They all get distributed. If you watch it on YouTube, on Rumble, if you listen on Apple for an episode, and then you're on Spotify, well, you can find us on there as well. Or 16 platforms that carry our TV show and podcast, and we're grateful to all of them and all of you. We're reaching not only here individuals in North America and the United States, Northeast Ohio, but we're reaching over 60 countries, well over 600 cities across the world. So if you're tuning in outside the United States, welcome. And if you can do us a big favor, something that's free, give us a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. Those are all free things you can do to help us out and continue towards that goal of mine and our organization of trying to help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Uh, so before we get started with our wonderful guest that is joining us, um, I just wanted to kind of give a refresh that this here is a, let me see, it's not even, I don't think it's 100 pages, 79, 80 pages. It's called The Prescription for Living. So that's there at the bottom under the House of You, which is trademarked. And we uh, now obviously are trademarked Voices for Voices. So we're able to have that R with the circle around it. So you'll see some branding that's older like this, that we don't have that R with the circle around it. But we are fully protected under the United States Patent and Trade Office, which is actually a step above copyright and trademark. And so it's a little bit backwards. I thought that you would be registered as an organization first and then be trademarked, but you can have a trademark and copyright and all that. There's additional steps to have been taken. And so this book, The House of You, uh, Prescription for Living, what it is, it's my mental health journey uh, from as far back as I can remember. Uh, my crash ending up in for about 5 days in an inpatient in a psych ward to swallow my pride and ego and get some help. And, and so that's detailed in there, as well as uh, the rebounding that was starting to occur once I was taking my energy uh, and having it be more focused on positive, more positive things than partying, alcohol, etc. Uh, and so you can pick that up on Amazon. You can find it really three ways. You can find it in paperback. You can also find it digitally, and you can find it on Audible. So I narrated on Audible, and so you can listen. You can check it out on your device or devices. or you can even have a paperback copy that we have. Uh, so yeah, when we talk about voices or voices, I just like to, from time to time, refresh uh, individuals who may say, well, he might, Justin doesn't say mental health in every single episode or trauma in every single episode. And so this book is the testament of uh, mental health and how the organization got founded. And we've built and we're continuing to build off of that. So it's important to share, and so that's kind of why I felt it was necessary to share. So let's jump into our episode. We are uh, going to probably have two episodes or two parts. I guess is the best way to say it, because there's a lot of information to talk through, and it may even turn into three, just because the way time is, the way Zoom is, and how I talk a lot. So, joining us today from a uh, undisclosed location, and that'll really come into play when we do this, conversation. Uh, the reason why it is that way, and so out of privacy concerns, not everybody wants that shared, and that's fine. That's okay with us, and so we're gonna go on from there. So our guest is Amanda Solomon. She is uh, really a jack of all trades. She's an author, which also includes the editing process, which it can be very, very tedious. So putting stories together and ideas is one thing, but making sure things flow, and we all have misspellings, so we just all do, uh, and so that's a big big part. She is married to one of our prior guests that we've had on, David, and uh, they are married and have um, a 9-year-old son, and uh, so yeah, I'll let if she wants to expand any more. But Amanda, thank you for joining us on the show. It's really good to be able to get another perspective on some current events and some past events that are happening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so as a mother, right? So there's a lot of things that go on in the world, and I'm sure there's a lot of concerns that a mother like yourself has for, the children, family, uh, uh, career, all those types of things. And I would think that, safety would be one of the big ones. And so how does safety play a probably a larger role than maybe some other individuals?
Yeah, especially with our careers being in the public and being an author, and you do got to take your safety more seriously. So when you think about it, you're just the normal average family. You have your children, you go to public school, you don't think about the safety because it's just part of your everyday life. Um, but then me coming from an average family that was never um, in Hollywood, never
Hmm.
in the eyes of the public, you don't think about these things. And our son Ryan did attend public school at one point when we lived in Ohio, before I had ever met David.
Okay.
And so The only safety I had to worry about was the other children in his class.
Hmm.
So you don't think about it. And then, like, fast forward to 2 years later,
Hmm.
where you're now in the public's eye, and you now have, between paparazzi,
Hmm.
you then have public, now that he's going to be on Amazon, you've got more eyes and views.
Hmm.
Then you have, um, he's 9. So let's just put it out there. A lot of you people, if you have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to teens, your child probably plays Roblox or Minecraft or some game that involves the internet, which means you are going to be talking to not just kids in your class, but you're going to be talking to kids all over the world. Or at
Right.
least you hope. You hope they're children.
Hmm.
Um, we have a little bit of an experience, which I never thought we would have to experience something like this, but he was really big on wanting to play Roblox, and I thought nothing of it, just a game. You know, um, we're about the same age, so back when we were kids, the PlayStations were just coming out, and there really wasn't much internet access to game with. And
Hmm.
now our children are growing up to they're 5 years old playing Roblox with other children, which we didn't have that.
Hmm.
So so yeah, Ryan got Roblox, and you realize you hear these horror stories of children giving their addresses away, which is why we don't give our location away.
Hmm.
And then you're on TikTok and you hear this video of this mom answering the door and finding out her son or daughter, I can't remember which one it was,
Hmm.
but he gave the address and said, "Oh, my mom is pretty." And this guy shows up at their house, and she didn't find out until the guy showed up and wanted to play with her son, which was like Ryan's age, 9, 10. And that's absolutely horrifying.
Right.
And there's there's been some other horror stories of adults talking to children, um and you sit here and think that would never happen, but then again, you never know it's happening until it happens. I can give a little example, um and that's the one thing with Ryan being homeschooled, and we're like down his throat. We're a
Hmm.
helicopter parent. He doesn't do anything without us knowing, and we get made fun of it. We get made fun of for it, but I would rather know what he's doing than not. And so he had his account hacked and had stuff stolen from it, and from an adult pretending to be a child. And he's had people message him, um, trying to talk to him. To, I think they've mentioned his dad before. So
Hmm.
being in the public's eye, it's very scary that way. And that's why it is important to, it's not a problem to be like which hemisphere you're in, which
Hmm.
location you're in, but to give your address, your phone number, your age, because there are predators out there that are going to use that information.
They do, and that is something that uh, there's a whole saying of, this doesn't happen in my town, this doesn't happen in my neighborhood or wherever. I turn on the social media and look at news reports, and oh well, I can just scroll right by it or click on it and look at it and then continue on. And I think that goes hand in hand with this as well, that uh, with digital devices and the GPS capabilities on top of if again the vulnerability of a a child, a youngster that as we know that the way the brain comes in as far as development, the front lobe dealing with reasoning and that doesn't really fully develop till I believe in somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah,
And
I think
and
it's 25 years old.
and I think that's huge for a lot of reasons. But what that really says to me is that there was just a whole lot of innocence and not knowing and thinking everybody is good, and that's what we want. We want that for
It's what we
our,
hope for, yes.
we hope that where we're living is in a as safe can be area, uh, that things like this aren't going on, but they're shadows, and the shadows with the advent of the digital devices and netbooks, iPads, what have you, uh, has
Yeah, and they
really,
share your location too.
yeah, and we know that they would say like, oh, Big Brother is watching us, and we can't really control that. Uh, but when we, uh, in good faith, whether it's Roblox or Minecraft, we want our want our children to learn, to try, experience, try to think about reasoning and strategy and all those things. But then on the back end is somebody with a spreadsheet somewhere, and they're they have access to that location data, which can be used for many good things. There could be maybe advertisements that are actually appropriate and local enough. But then there's also the things again, the shadow, you know, are getting bigger and bigger, and sometimes and actually more than we want. Uh, it's hard to find those individuals that are in the shadows, and
Hmm.
and so that's kind of like that first step of like, okay, well, we want safety, we want security. Uh, we have these devices. We're being tracked at some level all the time. But to have, like you mentioned, somebody show up at a house, unannounced, and the parents saying, "I didn't know this was going on," and they didn't know until it happened, and say, "Well, this doesn't happen in my town." And I think one of the big first lessons is just having that awareness that it doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter what income class, demographic, that nobody's immune to these types of uh, potential events and bad experiences. So as a parent, it takes on a whole new level because at least and when I grew up, and I don't know about you and your husband, but we would be playing outside a lot,
Hmm.
and we didn't have these devices, and now it it's the first thing that children want to do when they get in the car. They get home from school or get home from an event.
Even being at school.
Even being at school, it's pushed. It's, well, this is a requirement once you get to a certain grade. That assignments are going to be on here, and so that just drills in even further
Yeah, we
that,
didn't have laptops when we went to school.
yeah, yeah. And so with
It was
that,
all book work.
yeah, like exactly, yeah, like real pages, like so you can touch and feel. And I
I
remember the
mean, look at
compute.
us. We were told to buy calculators because we were told you would never have a calculator on you. So you had to have
Hmm.
mental math. And now look, we literally have a phone that carries a calculator. So,
And it's one of like thousands of features that. uh, the children and everybody, adults too, uh, can get lost in, spend more time on than we would like. And uh, but that's another conversation with the blue light and how that these devices are obviously meant to be addicting uh and even Reed Hastings is I believe he's still the CEO of Netflix, and talking about strategy, he said that you have your competitors and things you do well and things that you want to improve on. And he said one of the biggest competitors that Netflix has is uh, people sleeping, because that's time that they can't be on Netflix. They they're sleeping or resting, uh, and so that right there is not helpful as well. But anyways, let's bring it back into to your experiences and circumstances. And so coming from kind of like an all-American family and growing up, like I said, not in the spotlight, not on Hollywood, not paparazzi around, uh, and then having that transition where again somebody might be unexpected, like you didn't know until like you saw the first cameraman, or you didn't until you find out that, oh, this particular work is gonna be on a show or in a book, or and you meet people and like say famous and celebrities. And when that happens, that can have a lot of adverse effects as well, of putting that microscope on what you do and when you do it and how and where. Can you talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that as you were kind of big learning, but like once it kind of showed up at the door?
Yeah. So, yeah, you don't think about that until like it happens. So, um, I remember what David and I having a conversation about my book, and the very first book I was writing. Um, I guess it was more just writing just to clear my head and the mental health. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, nobody's gonna want to read this. And well, I found out David took it behind my back and pitched it,
Hmm.
and they decided that they wanted to produce it. And this is all before the writing strike. So
Hmm.
um, it was exciting. Like they were emailing me back and forth on who I wanted to play who, and I'm like, this is so real. Like really, like starting to think like, is this like happening? And
Hmm.
because when you're an average person, what the only emails you get are mostly spam
Hmm.
advertisements. You don't really get very many people contacting you that unless like maybe it's an appointment or something. But
Hmm.
um yeah, so I'm getting emails from production companies, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so for real. And nothing ever really happened until David's story came out, and we started getting harassed for it. And I never really thought anything of it. I was probably what, like 4 or 5 months that I had moved out of Ohio.
Hmm.
Um, and reminding you, like I grew up in a small town in Streetsboro. Not a lot of people know about it, and my mother was the one to tell me human trafficking does not happen here. It doesn't happen. So just like we stated in the beginning of the
Hmm.
episode, it doesn't happen. And you know, which is ironic because a couple months ago I found a family and her 2 children from Canton, Ohio, which is where Ryan was born and raised. And
Hmm.
um, a woman and her family was like taken from Canton, Ohio, and taken to Ireland, I think, or.
Yeah,
out of
I
the
think
country.
Iceland or Ireland. Yeah.
Iceland, I think that's what it was. I knew it started like with an I.
Hmm.
And so yeah, Iceland, and it's like, you, oh, that could have been me. And I never thought I'd have to worry about Ryan's protection until when David came out with his story, and then we had paparazzi and
Mm.
everything going on, and we have one of David's enemies, you could say,
Hmm.
go on a YouTube video and state that he needed taken.
Mm.
And this is an average boy who didn't grow up anything special. All we did was come in contact, have a relationship, and then all of a sudden the harassment starts. And you never think, which, I mean, that can happen on Roblox too. Just like the whole conversation where your child is just conversing, thinking it's another child, and the adult shows up. And um but I guess when you think about it, there's no difference because there's a common interest, and it's an adult coming in contact with a child on gaming.
Hmm.
But if you look at David's story, David, because back in our day, remember, we didn't have the internet.
Hmm.
I mean, very little, if you did, but we were outside. We didn't have technology. But then at this time, there was the Holy Worlds, there was forums, there was stuff that children could do for hobbies.
Hmm.
And that's where they would meet their mentors, and that's where they would meet their other people that shared the same hobby interest. I mean, if it was, what is it? Fantasy, the Christian. I mean, so a lot of people would just meet at church.
Mm.
So you have the whole church intro, you know. So it's not just video games. There's
Mm.
other topics and themes too that can be involved that you have to watch for public safety. And
Dang.
so you never think it would happen to you until it does. And after hearing this man tell random strangers that my child, which we're a blended family, it's
Hmm.
not David's blood child, but again, that, you know, it, you don't have to be blood to be a family.
Correct.
And so, and sometimes, you know, they say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes you're more safer outside of your blood. So
Sure.
toxicity and all. So
Hmm.
um David loves this little boy with all his
Hmm.
heart, and he would do anything to protect him. And the fact that these people go and make a public video to take my son, and we never had any problems, we never had to deal with anything, and all of a sudden we you have CPS showing up, you have um, your whole privacy is just out there, and you don't think about it until it's too late.
Yeah. I think so we're coming, we got about maybe like 2 minutes on this episode. It's going really well. We're getting it, the right direction. I think the best way to close out this is to get to that point that that exploitation, not just of the children, but of the adults. And so you have had also different types of hackings and uh, people getting in and doing things. But you've also with that uh, individuals without your permission take, find, whatever, some type of photo that
Yes.
may be out there. And if you can just really just touch on that really briefly, what happened, and then when we do part two, then we'll jump right into the legislative side of this. And
Part two, I'll discuss more on my information. But like we have Ryan, who's just a child, and um, that's another thing too. Like people with Facebook, it's important to not like yeah, you want to share photos of your children, but
mhm,
at the same time, they can be used against you. I mean, how many times I've seen so many threats of people using images of other children to claim that they're theirs and they're not. And I guess that's where like the trafficking stuff happens too, because you find the child, you take them, and then you start stealing their images and you claim that they're yours. And
change their name, change their
um,
birth certificate,
yeah,
change. Yeah,
you change all their info. You then claim they're theirs, and you're living this alter life where the child doesn't even know who they are.
yeah, yeah. That's yeah. And that really, comes back to, that public safety concern, how important that is, that if you or somebody, any viewer, listener, has experience, reach out. We're talking about, trafficking, National Human Trafficking Hotline. Make sure you get reported, reach out to law enforcement, reach out to media outlets, reach out to
And no
anybody.
crime is too big or too small.
Exactly. Yes, yes, that's a perfect way to share that. And while it might start as children, there's adults like us that, uh, one reason or not, where those types of things in a little bit of a different way sometimes
Mm-hmm.
happen. And we just have to be, again, just be cognizant of the surroundings, what's going on. And uh, if you see something, say something. Not everybody's gonna listen, but you gotta share it. You gotta let people know,
Never
especially.
keep anything inside.
That's right. Amanda,
Someone else might be going through it as well.
absolutely. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We invite our viewers and listeners to tune in to our part two of our conversation with Amanda Solomon, where we'll dig into some more